Is it okay for a Cenical not to have a priest? Now, I never spoke much about Cenacles or the priesthood, so I want to take an opportunity to do that a little bit here. The short answer is yes, it is. It's okay to have a Cenical without a priest, and many Cenacles, that's the way they start, without priests. Now, that being said, I've seen Cenacles with and without priests, and Cenacles with priests are definitely better. And the reason being is priests are trained to do this. The priests, and more importantly, they're consecrated. And I'll take an excerpt out of the Book of Heaven to expound upon the importance of the priesthood. It is a great necessity to form the first priest. They will serve me like the apostles served me to form my church. And that was volume 23, January 18, 1928. So that's an important statement. The priests will serve me like the apostles served me to form my church. So the priests that are the first priests in the divine will are like apostles. And I do look at the priests that are currently promoting the divine will to be just that. Now, there is a role for the laity. So let's talk about the laity a little bit as well. So the role of the laity is to, if you think of the priests as their role is to preach and teach the good news of the kingdom of the divine will and to serve as the trumpets of Jesus for the divine will, the role of the laity is to transmit this good news to others. And the Catechism, the Catholic Church explains the laity have responsibility in evangelization. Another source is the City of God. City of God, St. Augustine describes the relationship between the laity and the religious as two sides of the same body. So we're all working together in the divine will. So I want to be clear, there is a role for the laity, and obviously the priesthood is very much needed. And I also want to be clear that when you emphasize the vital role and necessity of the priesthood, that does not in any way diminish the role of the laity. As a matter of fact, an example in a Cynical that I was listening to someone speak, and the way that they came into the divine will and learned about it is through someone's example. In other words, someone who was already in the divine will, living it, they served as a witness. And this person said, like, I can see and hear it just like it was yesterday. I wanted to know what changed that man. And that's how he became interested in the divine will, and he's in fact someone who's advanced in the divine will. I myself am another example. I first heard about the divine will from a lay apostolate. So that's how the faith in times of the apostles was transmitted, from the words of the apostles, the teachings of the apostles, the preaching, to the laity, what would become the laity of the church, and the laity transmitted it to others. That's how it works. It's like a pebble dropped in a placid lake that forms ever-expanding ripples. And if you have multiple apostles and you spread them around, you have pebbles dropping in different parts of the lake, and their ripples interact, and the ripples get bigger because they coincide with each other. So going back to the question about the Cenacles, we need more Cenacles. And Jesus tells Louisa that he would like to have a soul living in the divine will in every town. And a way to make that happen is to have a Cenical in every parish. So I'm running out of time here. I think I'm going a little bit long here, but I want to talk a little bit more about the Cenical. So I want to encourage people to form Cenacles. And some may say, well, I look for a Cenical and I can't find one. Well, maybe that's because you didn't start one yet. So try this. Go to your pastor, ask to have a Cenacles, a prayer group, meet on parish property. And then, when you speak to him, be prepared to speak about the status of Louisa's cause and something about the divine will, so that he may not know anything about Louisa. And if he agrees, ask for a small blurb to be put in the weekly parish bulletin, providing the when and the where. If he doesn't agree, try having it at your home. Ask to have it at your home, and maybe you're not comfortable with that. Maybe you want to have a third location, but think about that. Think about having it in somewhere else, and still ask for a blurb in the bulletin. I mean, you're a parishioner. Ideally, if you have someone else, there's two of you, the way you start off with Cenacles, you may be by yourself, and you need to do an outreach to others. This is the way to do it. Now, if you get agreement and you start the Cynical, be prepared to sit there for 3 or 4 weeks by yourself. Be persistent. Do something that's worthwhile with that time. Read more. Read the Book of Heaven. And as your Cynical acquires members, and this is another important part of it, go to a holy priest in your parish and ask if he can provide spiritual direction to your Cynical. So most priests will have difficulty in good conscience turning away people who are asking for spiritual direction. Now there's a lot of time constraints that priests are faced with. But even if you cannot get a priest to join, just asking. So if you ask a pastor, can I have a Cynical in the parish? You ask a priest, can you provide spiritual direction for my Cynical? We're talking about Louisa Picaretta and Divine Will. What they may do, even if you're not successful in getting what you want, what they may do is they may say, who is this Louisa Picaretta that people are asking about? Let me look into that a little bit. You may be planting a seed. You may create another apostle of the divine will that we just talked about. Very important. Don't be afraid of failure. Even if you did this and you did not get the ability to meet on the property of the parish, did not get a spiritual director for the Cynical, Jesus is very pleased with your action. But thanks for asking that. Please like and subscribe to help us promote this content, and thank you for joining.